let's talk a little bit about your Dallas Cowboys here, because
they made some news over the weekend.
Which is
the weekend.
It really is, and I don't know. It's not new. It's not novel by any means. But man, like,
you're minding your own business, trying to chill, right?
A weekend in March,
yes,
right. Like, there's no reason why the NFL should still have this level of like grip on conversation or what have you. But here you go, especially your Dallas Cowboys, where Jerry Jones indeed knows how to keep this stirred up, right? But we found out, for one, I mean, on Friday, we knew that the Cowboys were set to meet with Tyron Smith, your longtime left tackle, who is a free agent, and his agent. And then Tyler Biadasz, your, center that's just coming off of the end of his rookie deal. And,
you free agent too.
And we haven't heard much on the Biadasz front. But what we did learn specifically with Tyron is that we knew that there was mutual interest, which makes sense, right? Like, I think a lot of people understood, or at least believed it to be the case, that Tyron Smith would either play here or nowhere, right?
Retire, yeah. Here or retire. And hunky-dory, he feels the need. He's a placeholder until you, in other words, if you're all in, he's a solid placeholder. For those who hadn't been keeping up, second team All-Pro last year when he played. And they found out the solution of trying to keep him healthy, no practice. So it seemed like, okay, he likes the situation here. He's a long time. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's a long time, guy. He's a guy you want to take care of. And he's going to retire once he's through with the Cowboys. And then, how about some headlines?
Yep. Partially contributed to by Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News. That he reported that mutual interest existed for the 8-time Pro Bowl left tackle Tyron Smith to return for a 14th season in Dallas. But then club officials and Smith agents talked numbers on Friday. And apparently there was a significant schism between the two numbers that they had. And so with that being the case, apparently people close to the situation told the Dallas Morning News that the divide is so drastic that an eventual agreement is in doubt. And what that means is you might be going into the first season in a very long time where Tyron Smith does not play for these Dallas Cowboys.
There's a lot of things that happen on this, though.
Yes, sir.
Keep in mind these two dates. March 11th is the first time another team can talk to Tyron and his agent. March 13th is when, that's it. Cowboys, see you later. So keep those in mind. And I look at this, when it first broke, it was during Fan Jam, and Will said, according to Ian Rappaport, it's over. I was like, what? But he didn't say it. I'm paraphrasing. It was just so dramatic because everybody thought even Jerry on the bus was like, yeah, we'll get it all taken care of. One day later, it's over. It's not going to happen. And I'm like, this sounds like the agent told this to Ian Rappaport. I'm saying this sounds like negotiations to me, and it sounds like the Cowboys are lowballing, and his agent wants a whole lot of money. I didn't know what the terms were. Gelkin hadn't written the article yet about how far apart it may be.
Sure.
At the same time, I'm like, okay, they got till March 13th to get something done. And I recall, just as a comparison, not the D where you go out there, they cut D where you go out there and we'll match it because we know we don't want to overpay you. And then Denver paid him big money, got a Super Bowl ring. I was immediately thinking about Tank Lawrence because Steven tried to lowball Tank Lawrence, and Tank Lawrence said, F you, I will walk.
That's a great point. And
Jerry swooped in and said, hey, Tank, let's meet in the middle of this thing and guarantee you some money and then just shorten this. And it worked out. And no hard feelings at all. And I'm like, why does it seem like this could go that way, even though the stir right now is, oh, he's gone? All I know is it could go either way, but I've seen this script before.
All right, so 877-881-1053. Are you at a place where you're okay with Tyron Smith no longer being on this team, right? This works in a few ways. I think everybody has come to a place where you've understood Tyron Smith is not a long-term plan by any stretch of the imagination,
this
right?
Is probably that's it this season.
Right. You need to have a replacement plan. In fact, a lot of people thought you drafted Tyler Smith to be that replacement plan. But with that, obviously you mentioned the idea that, hey, they seem to figure out a way to keep him healthy by not practicing him. Are you certain that that's going to definitely work again, or was that just a happenstance where you were able to get a good stretch of games?
Nobody knows, which is probably why the Cowboys are lowballing.
And so you have that, but then on the other side of this, as of right now, and I'm not considering the compensatory picks that will likely come through. I believe you're probably getting a a 5 and a 6 in compensatory picks.
Probably.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But as of right now, the picks that you actually have as the Dallas Cowboys are a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and 2 seventh-round picks.
They can't bundle nothing.
That is not a lot of anything to get things done, considering that there are how many positions that you absolutely need to address. Linebacker, defensive tackle,
center,
probably center if you do not get anything done with Tyler Biadasz, and running back are all things that you could at least think about utilizing,
depth.
right? And if you do not bring back Tyron Smith, you are opening up another spot where you need to address this. However, there are a lot of offensive tackles in this draft from the 940. They point to this. There are a lot of good left tackles in this draft. I think there's probably more guys that play right tackle in this draft, but regardless, right, you have a lot of tackles available to you in this draft.
The problem with that is if you're trying to win now, you're talking about rebuilding that offensive line. And it takes time because offensive linemen don't necessarily hit the ground and are stars right off the bat.
Fair enough, but I mean at the same time also, like if you are when you draft some a particularly in certain positions a player in the first round, you're anticipating that they get in there and that they are some level of effective as a starting level player.
Yeah, you hope. And
right.
Again, the Cowboys have a great history of drafting offensive linemen
absolutely
in the first round. Not so much so linebackers and pass rushers, TJ Watt. I'm just saying.
And so with that being the case, right, like I think you can look at this in both ways and see the possibilities there. I think that you probably were starting to get to a place where you needed to address tackle either way.
Sure.
The tough thing about it is I keep coming back to the lack of picks. Like if you had more picks, I'd probably feel more comfortable with this. And again, I mentioned the idea that you probably are going to have a couple of compensatory picks coming towards you that can ease some of this. But you have some gaps in the offensive line, and honestly, I think that center position was part of the reason why you didn't run the ball well as well.
Ding, 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 ding.
Right? And
Quiet as his cap. Even though they love his work habits, the whole 9 yards, he's just not tired. He's just not Travis Frederick. Let's keep it real.
Right.
And Travis not only played well, but he also called the offensive line plays. He kept those guys in line. Very few penalties with Travis calling the plays and being the captain out there.
Right, and so I think ultimately, I'm okay if they're not capable of bringing Tyron Smith back. It would stink though if you come to look at it and you go, all right, Tyron Smith has consistently worked on team friendly deals all the way through, and one of the things I like talking about is the fact that money often serves as a proxy for respect. Right, sometimes because you look at Tyron Smith and I don't think he needs the money. I think he's made a good amount of money over the course of his career. Now, of course, that's a little bold for me to tell somebody else what a good amount of money is ultimately. But I think that that's probably a fair assumption. I wonder, and you tell me what you believe here, CA. I wonder if this is not even necessarily about the money itself, but is it like a level of, I want you to respect at the end of this, what I have done. And I want you to show me that respect via this money.
Right. It's a dance basically. And only Jerry's good enough to pull it off. Steven's not. We had David Hellman on right after this news broke. David Hellman, formerly at DallasCowboys.com, currently with Fox Sports. And we were talking about the same stuff and how this guy's going to the Hall of Fame. It's just like if Zach Martin were to go or D. Ware were to, which he did wind up leaving. You've got to show some respect when you do this thing. It worked out with Tank because Jerry was coming in there saying, okay, Tank, we really believe in you. You're one of our great players, blah, 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 blah. Let's meet in the middle a little bit. Again, Stephen Jones was being the bad cop. Jerry comes in being the good cop. This may be the same situation. And at the same time, realize this, Cowboy fans. When Tyron's rookie deal was about to expire, he signed behind his agent back and signed a very team-friendly deal with the Cowboys in Oxnard. We were out there when it happened. Everybody was in shock. Jerry done cornered Tyron and talked him into an extension. And Tyron has not peeped a word, complained about anything about his money, and his other offensive linemen over the years who are not even as good as him get paid big money. At the same time, this past season, when he found the miracle cure, which was no practice, I think he was being paid by the game. It was like $1 million a game or something. It was like, wait a minute, we got to make sure that you're healthy. And he agreed to that. So in a way, he's like, okay, I did that last year. And the question for the Joneses and the Cowboys is, they guessed wrong with D. Ware because his body was breaking down, they thought.
Yeah.
He was good enough to get a Super Bowl. It's like, are you good enough to do it without Tyron? I'm talking about go all the way you need to go. Or are you even afraid Or are you so sure that another team will say, yeah, you don't have to practice Tyron? Or whatever the thing you're saying, nobody's going to let you do what we let you do. I mean, you follow what I'm saying?
Sure.
This thing has to really be negotiated further. I don't know if both sides are dug in, but they're saying that to the media.
Yeah, and like I often like to point out, it is indeed lying season, right? And so we get all sorts of different perspectives, and we have to try and parse it. I think what makes this a little bit another level of, I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but it feels like the MO for this organization. Well, one, the seemingly unnecessary nature of like creating a hole in your offensive line. Although, again, I think you could look at the offensive line and say that there was room for improvement. And obviously, if you were in a place where you're like, yo, you need to get this done, finding ways to improve obviously means something. But I think, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Because I want you to you said it best. You wanted to improve, but you have Zach Martin, who's perennial All-Pro. You had Tyler Smith, who showed you All-Pro kind of stuff. And then Tyron, who's going to the Hall of Fame, who was like every season falling apart, found it and was second team All-Pro. In other words, you had that. You had three of your 5 starters. They showed you All-Pro caliber for a season. You follow what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So that's what you have to weigh. It's like, okay, yeah, it might be time to change, but are you going to change now when everybody's under 1-year contracts? I'm talking about the coaching staff and the analytic department. They're all under 1-year contracts. Even Mike Zimmer's got a 1-year deal. It's like, that's Jerry's way of pushing it all in. So my question is, okay, if you're doing all that, how the hell are you going to try to say, let's find a new guy who's younger and maybe he might fit in and know exactly how we do things around here?
Yeah, and like, look, I
that's
think
the question mark.
What's evident is like the very clear desire that this team has to still keep him. I think makes me think that portion of it, of like whether they think he's good enough to still do this, is probably not the portion of the conversation. It's whether they can fit it into the numbers of it all, and I think that leans into the frustration. Yeah. Because it feels like the organization has prioritized let's kind of make all these numbers fit in a way where it felt like, hey, you probably are being too conservative. I'm trying to make these numbers fit. And then also, it just feels like this team loses the negotiation all the damn time. And now it feels like you're going to a place where you're also losing a negotiation with a guy who is constantly giving you what you've wanted.
And that's why it's a dance. That's why David Hellman was saying, look, this is harder than you think because you can't offend him and let him. And by the way, Hellman's guessing, and we're kind of thinking maybe he's guessing wrong. Hellman said since last season, he said, watch Tyron go to the Kansas City Chiefs. But they don't have a history of getting a guy on the offensive line who's old and broken down.
Yeah.
But Hellman says, if it happens, I called it a long time ago.
I mean, either way, I do think that this team that first round pick probably needs to go to the offensive line.
Yes.
To begin with.
Yes, for sure. But for depth, and then let the guy take Tyron's job.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't start talking about depth in a season where you have everybody on a 1-year contract.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can't let Tyron just go.
But look, man,
and not get nothing but 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks or something.
Right. As of right now, like I don't love the idea of having to have him go. But like get yourself a left tackle, start going with that. I just recognize the ways in which you're making this, like the margin of the margin of error gets even smaller. And again, it comes back to how much do you trust the Cowboys organization to stick the landing? And that's where I get a little uncomfortable. I trust them to stick the landing on drafting a lineman. All right, cool. They can do that. But then all of the other places that you need to, now center you still need to look at, running back you still need to look at, defensive tackle, linebacker, all those things still need to be addressed. And so, look, I'm interested in seeing it. Will McClay has his role to play here, and I know that he has gotten a lot of praise over his time for the capabilities. Seems like he might be able to step up, or might need to step up. And again, you mentioned it, and you're right. You still got about a week until his deal, Tyron Smith's deal in particular, actually is over. And we'll see if they're ultimately able to like have some level of negotiation where you still have Tyron Smith. And even then, you might still need to draft a left tackle to address that. Seriously. Because again, if you are locked in on the idea that Tyler Smith is a guard, you need a left tackle in the future.